book nerds. I'm Aubrey,
And I'm Peyton.
and today we are going to be talking about the sensational, sold out, cannot find it in stores, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros.
So join us with a cup of coffee as we dive between these paper sheets. Okay, so we are very, very excited to talk about this book today. Aubrey texted me a couple weeks ago and said, "Hey girl, this book is starting to get talked a lot about on Book Talk, and we need
Yes.
to jump on it as soon as possible, ASAP." And we sure did. And well, it was freaking amazing.
Yeah, we literally devoured this book. I am a slow reader, and I think I finished this in a week or less. I know you did it as well.
Yeah.
Peyton started after me and finished before me, so it is just so good. But for those of you who don't know, and I don't know how you don't know because this book is crazy popular, the Fourth Wing follows our main character, Violet Soaringale, and this is set in a high fantasy setting, and it's focused on a war college. So the main country this is set in, they are constantly at war for the past 600 years, and so all of the efforts of the society are pushed towards winning and surviving this war. Violet's mother is the general. She's the second highest ranking person in the military. So in this very military focused world, that's a big deal. And Violet is ready to enter into the war college, which is a 3-year program. And the way that this world is set up, it's kind of feels like a divergent scenario where you have to pick your quadrant, and that's basically your major. But things are super intense because Violet has trained her entire life to be a scribe and go to the scribes quadrant, which is the bookkeepers, things like that, which is what her dad did. However, her dad passed away, and now her mom said, "You're gonna go be a writer." And what a writer is the elite CIA type shit, major quadrant, that has super scary death rates, super high. And so Violet is now going in to try to be a writer, a dragon rider. That is what they're preparing for. And Girly is not prepared.
No, she is not. Like Aubrey said, this is kind of like a Divergent, and I love it because Divergent, if you've seen our other book podcasts, I love Divergent, it's my favorite. And this is, to me, is like a gift from the gods. Here is your adult Divergent, Peyton, and that is why I just consumed and devoured this book like a sweet dessert. So yeah, I mean, we have a couple different quadrants. There's the scribe, there's the infantry, there's the healer, and then of course the writer's quadrant, which is where we get our dragons. So yeah, Violet's basically forced into this quadrant and this world, this very dangerous world. And the one thing we have to tell you is that she is going in with a lot of enemies.
Yes. There's a lot going on, and we don't want to spoil too much of it, but you learn from the very first chapter. All of this stuff that we have said so far is in the first chapter, which kind of gives you an idea of what the pacing is like, which we will get into next. But going into it, Violet's sister Mira says, "Watch out for Xaden. He is going to try to kill you." And he is not the only one.
No.
There's a whole faction of people within the books that are trying to kill her. The training is already super dangerous. The book starts off with the first test and trial for people trying to become writers. They have to cross these scary high parapets with a 15% death rate. So Girly's got to fight for what she's going into.
Yes, she definitely, like we said, there's war actively going on, and there has been war. So, and she's the general's daughter, and there's going to be some enemies. So, yes, like we said, we don't want to spoil too much, but definitely why I think this is an amazing book for anyone, whether you like fantasy or not, is the pacing of this book. I have never
Oh my god.
quite I've never been, there's been a couple, but to be captured by something so fast. The first chapter is when she goes over the parapet, and oh my god.
Every single fucking page, you're like,
it counts. Every page counts.
You're like, yes, Yaros made those words count. Like, every single one, you're just like, oh my god, this is happening. I literally, like, it itched. It like felt like an addiction. Like if I put the book down and I was like, okay, I gotta go work. I'm like, oh, when can I read the next chapter? When can I read the next chapter? Like I literally was like addicted to finishing this book.
It's so good. Yeah, the pacing is the best. I have it is. It's like a drug that you just like need to keep on taking. And it's the worst thing ever. So that's kind of all I really want to share about what the book is about.
You want to go in and experience it. Yeah. Just know that it's good.
Yes. All right, we do not want to give away too much information because we want you to experience the book the same way we experienced the book.
Yes.
So we are going to end with our star ratings.
I think they're obvious.
I mean, this is a 5 out of 5. If I could rank this a 6 out of 5, I would. This is probably going to be my favorite book of the year, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I know. It's crazy.
I totally agree. This is like a 5 out of 5, but more specifically, this is an adult fantasy 5 out of 5, which means so much more. Like I sometimes I'll give books 5 out of 5 for like, like, oh, that's a 5 out of 5. Why I missed it. No, this is a 5 out of 5. This is a 10 out of 10 book. Actually, I'm jumping to 10 to give it
like,
more.
Yeah. And what we read primarily is adult fantasy. So the fact that we are telling you right now that this book is very well, like, one of our most favorite books ever, and we read a lot. We have a book podcast, like this book, just go read it and come back and watch this episode.
Yes. We are forcing everyone in our lives to read this, and I'm not saying that lightly. I actually mean it. Everyone is like, this is your next read. We have to let people borrow our copies because it's sold out. So if you haven't read it yet, find a friend who has the book, because it's crazy.
Yeah, or get yourself a Kindle or something. Because you're definitely SOL. This book's not even just sold out, it's on back order. Like, people are on lists for this book. So
warehouse empty.
Yeah, warehouse is empty. So anyways, bye everyone that doesn't want any spoilers.
Yes, we are going to move into our spoiler section so we can go into all the details of this book because they're so juicy and they're so good.
Yes. All right, so bye everyone. See you later. All right, we are now in our spoiler section, and we are going to jump right into chapter 1, maybe mentioning some stuff that we didn't really want to mention before. On the parapet, that's where Violet is kind of going into her initiation of sorts into the Writer's Quadrant. Mm-hmm. What I love about this scene is that Mira, the whole time, to her mom is like, why are you doing this to Violet? Like, she's weak. Yeah. She cannot do this. Yes.
Like, so that is so good because I've seen a lot of people talking about how, like, Violet actually is, like, representation for chronic illnesses because of, like, I don't know, because obviously it's a fantasy word, so they don't use the real life medical term. And I don't want to butcher it, so I'm not gonna try. But basically, this idea of, like, actually being weakened genetically and having fragileness to you and still like persevering. But at this moment, they're like, she's going to die. Like,
Yeah.
it's not her fault that she's fragile, as they described it in the books, because it's fantasy books. But like, Girly Pop cannot do this.
No.
And then
Yeah.
Violet still gives her boots. Like, she still swaps it. And that could have killed, honestly, Violet as well. Like, obviously, she would have done better on the parapets had she had both of her boots.
Yeah. So, and then of course, we talked about before how she's going to have enemies going into that. So, therefore, with her having the silver hair, those enemies know exactly who she is.
Yeah.
And that is the most terrifying part. But what I like about Violet is every time someone says to dye her hair or do something with it, she's like, no.
Yeah.
She's like,
no,
this is who I am. Like,
yeah.
So yes,
she's very confident, and that's one of my favorite things is that like she's confident about who she is, and like she really feels like a real person. Like, she's just gonna say it as it is. Like, should she cut her hair for like a numerous amount of reasons? I mean, also you got to think like the war training. Like, obviously short hair is better for that, but she's like, no, I like my hair. You gonna say something to me? No, I'm gonna say something right back. Like, I'm gonna say what I'm thinking, what everyone's thinking.
Yes. So she's walking up the steps, as we know. Like, there's these bunch of steps. She has her backpacks on. Mira's yelling at her mom. Her mom's like, listen, after you cross this, I'm not really your mom anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not really going to talk to you like I am now. And then she even, like, addresses her mom as, like, yes, ma'am, like, yes, general. Like, she's not her mom anymore. And we get
barely your mom to start.
I know. We get up to the parapet, and who do we see? Right away, with the clipboard, we see Xaden.
Oh my gosh, it's such a fun introduction to him.
Yeah.
Because he's just like doing his wing leader responsibilities. But like instantly, like Violet almost, I think, falls off the parapet just looking at him.
Yeah, like right away, it's kind of like love at first sight for her. And then when he finds out she's a soaring gale, basically he like looks up and down and is like, well, I may not have to worry about killing you. You may just kill yourself on this.
Yeah.
That's the way he says it. And so why this is interesting, why he's kind of the first person she meets who is like already in the writer's quadrant. We know Rhiannon and her, she gave her the shoe, which is like, just shows how nice Violet really is for people she cares about. But you know, why Xaden's awkward is because he's the son of the guy where basically Violet's mom brutally killed Xaden.
Yeah. So, because like 5 years earlier or something, like, no, more than 5.
Yeah, a little more.
Way more than 5. But Xaden is the oldest of all of the rebellion's kids.
Yeah.
So a part of the country rebelled up, and in that rebellion, Violet's brother gets killed, or so we think.
Yes.
Because we have read we're taking through the whole book, but at this moment, we're like, okay, Violet's brother got killed in this, and then they also executed all of the rebellion people, forcing all of the rebellion's kids to join the Riders Quadrant, thinking that they all die. Xaden's the oldest, and now he's also the wing leader. Like, he's risen so high for basically having received a death sentence.
Yes. Yeah. So Xaden's character at first, like, I didn't feel as like, Xaden to me, the way that Violet described him, I was like, okay, he's gonna be a love interest of some kind.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, with the name Xaden Ryerson, I'm like, okay. And then the way she's like, he was tall, dark, and handsome, basically.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, girl.
Violet's thoughts are always horny.
Yes.
They're always horny.
Yeah.
But yeah, meta, I feel like you knew instantly that Xaden was eventually going to be the love interest. I didn't think it was going to happen in the first book here.
Yeah.
But you also, like, looking at the book as a whole, like, I was never threatened, never scared of Xaden. Like, it doesn't even feel like an enemies to lovers arc. And every time she kept thinking, oh, something with his enemy, like, da da da, and she, like, Violet kept calling them enemies. I was like, girly, he's done nothing to you. Like, in the later scenes, like, he had many opportunities to kill her, and he never even tries.
Not even tries to kill her. Maybe scares her, but like that's it.
Yeah.
So quickly,
Messes
just
with her.
scanning over this, what I have down here to kind of go over is we already kind of did is the family dynamics within the Sorrengails is kind of tricky. Her dad dies.
Mm-hmm.
We think of like a heart failure of some kind, but like that's kind of iffy. Her brother dies in battle, or so we think. Mira seems like such a rock in her life. Mira to me is like her mother. Mira is the one that gives her the, the armor. And then we have her mother, who I don't know how to feel about her. I don't know if she is the villain of this story actually, and or maybe has to come off as a villain because she is, you know what I mean?
The general, because what's interesting is that obviously the way the book ends sets you up for this idea that the next book in like the series is going to be like our big villain is now the Venom and the Wyverns, and our like secondary villain is actually the like government. Oh my god, no way. Because they've been hiding these facts, and the rebellion was actually on the right side trying to bring the truth. So it switches it up there, but we also have this like the main dude above her mom doesn't seem to get along with the mom, and I feel like he's gonna be like our main government villain because he's got the other black dragon. And I'm like, are we really gonna end this series without this dude, like without killing this dude, so Violet has the biggest dragon? Because they make sure you know that Tarn isn't the biggest dragon.
Yeah.
Because that guy's around.
Yep. So I think it's just, because we're fantasy readers, we're like, okay, I see the breadcrumbs. I see where this is going. Yeah. So, but as far as the family dynamics go, I'm not sure where her mother falls into that. I really see her going either way, playing the game, putting on face so she can actually help out. But she also did kill Xaden's dad and all those people, but maybe, I don't know. So,
yeah, so we don't know what's going to go on with her and her mom. Might be a villain, might not. I'm also interested to see what happens between her and Brennan next book. Because at the very end, the very last sentence, we find out that he's still alive, which is crazy, and we can get more into that. But, a lot of this first book, we saw a lot of good scenes between Violet and Mira. And I'm wondering what that's going to look like now with the other brother, because he obviously faked his death, I guess.
Yeah.
And if his faking his death actually cause the dad to die, and Violet loved her dad, like, I wonder if she's going to, like, resent him a little bit for that.
And or maybe the dad... Well, I don't know if they saw if they saw their dad's body. I don't know if I skimmed over that or if I missed those details. But like, what if the dad was still alive? Like,
yeah, because the dad's death was fishy as hell.
Yeah, they never.
Which is why I thought. And they were like, "Oh, he just died because his heart was too sad." Kind of weird bullshit. But like, so that made me think originally that he was going to be the family member who's actually alive, and Brennan, who died in battle, was going to actually be dead. But then we learned, like, are they both actually alive or not? Yeah. Also, Tarn, I feel like, had to have known that Brennan's still alive.
Yeah, I know.
Because Tarn's last rider before Violet died trying to save Brennan and used up too much of his power and died. But maybe he succeeded. Like, he's like Tarn's rider still died, but actually got Brennan back, and they kept it a secret. But that means that Tarn's also been keeping a second secret from Violet all this time.
Yeah. But we know that this dragon is very good at doing that. He's always wise. He's always like, "You'll know one day. You'll know one day."
You'll know. Well,
Yeah.
and he'll say things like, "Things are as they should be."
Yeah.
Like a lot of times that line came out when like Violet's like, "Oh no, plot twist," but Taryn's like, "Things are as they should be."
Yeah, it's kind of like the Mandalorian when they just go like, "This is the way, this is the way," and you're like, "Okay, like you're wise, you're old, I can listen to you." So let's go back to Conscription Day here.
Yes.
Because we're introduced to a bunch of different people. We know Violet makes it across, but I saw this funny thing that's like, if your name's Dylan or Liam or maybe you told me this, Aubrey, or maybe have some like normal ass names, like you're not gonna make it long. Dylan is super excited to make it across, and he does not. I don't know why we're laughing, but it's just kind of funny.
And they laid it on so thick. He's like, "You get to marry sooner. I'm gonna get married," and I'm like, "Oh no."
He's not gonna make it. And yeah, so basically that just showed that even if you're skilled, you can still fall. And so the fact that Violet made it across is a miracle. We meet her new bestie, Rhiannon, who is such a sweetheart. Love her. But honestly, something I wrote down here is that her friends in this book are kind of forgettable. It kind of reminds me of Bella's friends in Twilight. In the first book, where it's just kind of like these people are kind of supporting her and going through these motions together with her, but like they're pretty forgettable. And I feel like as we get further into this political war and now she's kind of on the other side, I don't know, I feel like they're gonna kind of be like silenced out a little bit over time. I think they'll still be there, but it's gonna kind of just be like not necessarily, it's not about like their wing anymore, because I think Violet's gonna have all these other things going on behind the scenes that we as readers are gonna focus on, but I don't see them becoming like real characters.
I think a lot would have to change for them to like get fully developed, because I agree. I feel like especially in the beginning half of the book, like you had to keep being reminded, oh, these are her friends, they still are around. And I know a lot of the book focuses on Violet trying to survive and then her relationship with Xaden, and so maybe it's supposed to be like Violet forgetting, but I don't know. I think that they're there, but especially if Violet doesn't return back to the college for year 2, then there's no way. Yeah, we're done.
Yeah, I definitely think like it could be like a Tawny situation with Rhiannon. Like kind of those are the vibes I'm getting. If you read From Blood and Ash, you'll get it. But I definitely getting those vibes where it's just like she's just in the dark about a lot of things, and there's no way Violet would be able to bring her into the light without compromising the bigger subject on hand. And honestly, she's probably safer where she is anyways. So so we'll see. And I was just reading, I'm like, this is so like Twilight to me. Like Bella has these friends at a new school, but like once Edward comes into the picture, we're like, never mind. Like, and I think I even remember in the movies, like Anna Kendrick's like, why don't you hang out with us anymore? So anyways, once she crosses, we are met by Dane, who Mira says, go find Dane. Dane is Violet's lifelong bestie, who has her best interests at heart, but once again kind of is suffocating. And we get that over the book. I think he's well written though. I really do.
Yes. No, I agree. I think that everything that he does is like so realistic, and that's what makes it so fucking annoying, is that you're like, oh, can you not? And like at the beginning, Violet is like hot for Dane, like hot for Dane. I thought he was gonna be I thought he was gonna be the love interest for the entire first book, you know. But then he just like, it's like chalkboard, like chalk on a chalkboard,
Yeah, it's
like with
like
like the grating sound. Like you were like, oh, this is so nice. Oh, what is he doing? And it just gets worse and worse and worse. But yeah, he absolutely, like, in his mind, he's like, I am right. I am protecting her. I cannot break the rules. Just leave the Riders Quadrant.
yeah. I felt bad because I do think he does just love her so much that he is sometimes in life people want to protect you so much they are actually the worst thing for you. And at the end of the day, Violet wanted to stay. She got to a point where
Yeah.
she's like, no, like, I want this. I want to prove myself. I want to prove to my mother that I can do this for myself. And okay, sure, dude. Like, say it the first couple weeks, but like when we're
Right.
like 6 months into this and she's done all this shit, it's kind of like, look at what I've done, Dane. Like, drop it. And if she's telling you to drop it, fucking drop it. Like, I don't understand what the big deal is. That was where his character I saw. I'm like, oh no, don't kiss him ever again.
Because all the times before, when she was like, my mom's gonna kill me, like, it makes sense, everything that he was doing. But it got to a point where she was like, I've won every single challenge, and you're still telling me I'm not enough? I've made the gauntlet. I've bonded. She fucking bonded to 2 dragons. One of them being one of the biggest dragons, and the other one being the rarest dragon that has never bonded to someone before. And he's still like, are you gonna go? When are you gonna go?
Yeah.
Like, that was when it was like, okay, shut the fuck up. And I'm so appreciative that Violet actually does that. And she's like, you are going to learn to support me or we're going to stop being friends. Yeah. And I had so much respect for Violet in that, because I feel like a lot of the times, and honestly, Rebecca Yarros for writing her that way, because I feel like a lot of times you see the fantasy female character when the man's like, you're getting too powerful. The girl being like, oh, I'm sorry, babe, that I'm so strong and you're so weak. I'm so sorry. I won't use my powers. But Violet was not like that. She was like, shut the fuck up. Like, leave me alone until you change your attitude.
Exactly.
I'm not the one who needs to change. It's you.
Yes, exactly. And she, like, you can see the progress she freaking makes over her time there. So, I call him Dane the Protector because he is trying his best to protect her, but in the end, we know he doesn't follow the rules and he takes advantage of her mind by reading her memories. So, Dane's kind of written off in my book. Does he have a redemption arc? I don't know. I hope so. But the thing is, like, that first day when Dane, like, brushed off her knees and, like, helped her and, like, took her to his room, like, that made me feel so, like, happy inside, because he really was just trying to protect her. Got her in his, like, squad, so, you know, but I think Dane is what she needed at first, but isn't what she needed, like, forever. So Dane the Protector. When I want to kind of move forward here, maybe we can pivot a little bit. Quickly going over Jack. Jack, to me, we know he's kind of the villain in this book. Yeah. But to me, Rebecca Yarros did not want Dane to be the villain, like, right away. She also didn't want Xaden to be the villain. Right, so Jack, to me, was like, I always knew he was going to be killed off in some way. I just didn't know how. Or when. But Jack is the reason why Xaden and Violet's love story kind of, like, kept moving. Because Xaden would come at these, like, opportune moments to kind of, like, help her out. I mean, we saw it when she bonded with Tarn and Adarna, because he was there.
Yeah, and I think that the nice thing is that when we have, you're right, Jack is, like, positioning as this, like, point of conflict and point of danger to Violet. But what's interesting is that when Xaden goes to help, what he's not saving her.
No.
He is almost like offering moral support. He is helping. He is training her how to fight and stuff like that. But it's not like oh, you're a damsel in distress. He's just there also, and I think that shows the difference between Xaden and Dane very well.
Yes.
Because we know that there's like the mat scene, and they're like, Dane, like you're like a puppy, like up against the mat, freaking out every time Violet fights. Whereas Xaden's like, throw some knives at him. Fuck around. He's gonna fuck around and find out, you know?
Let's fuck around and find out.
Scare
Yeah,
him.
and I do think Jack was there to kind of show the difference. Happy he's dead.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that what the video you sent me? Isn't it when he dies?
I'm not sure. I sent you so many.
Hold on. Wait, let me check because I want you to include it in the thing. Yeah.
Oh.
But so we can include the video of you celebrating Jack's death.
Oh, that's right. Yes. So Aubrey is correct. I did kind of like freak out, and I kind of recorded myself a little bit while reading this book. Just like quick like Snapchats, which we'll have to include my like raw reaction.
Yes.
Yeah. When Jack died, I was like this is. I have no words. I have no words.
Oh, because you want him to die.
When a villain dies. An unnecessary villain to the story.
Yes.
Like, what was he going to add to the story anymore? He had to go.
It was his time. And I kept being like, when is he going to die? When is he going to die? Because she had a bunch of opportunities. Yeah. But the fact that, like, he's her first murder and she uses her lightning powers, I was like, okay, you're right. This was the best time. Did I want her to kill him on the mat? Yes. But the fact that it happened when it did with her powers, I'm like, okay, yeah, that was cool.
Rebecca knew what she was doing.
Yes. Like, girly pop knew what she was doing.
We're going to save you. Okay, so we're able to kind of there was a part in the very beginning of the book that I kind of knew what was coming. It was kind of like referencing what was to come, and that's when Sigale stared at Violet, and and Violet has like been around Mira's dragons. Like obviously she grew up in like a general's household, so she knows dragons very well. But I think for her it was always like keep your distance, like. It's not your freaking dragon, so, like, stay back. But Violet's, like, in line, and Sigale, like, looks at her. And she's like, shit, like, is she gonna? Because the whole book is, like, dragons will just, like, fire blast someone they don't feel is worthy. And, like, so, like, dragons are literally so badass.
Yeah.
And
they're, like, the gods of this world.
They're, and they kind of, like, have their own little society. And they're just kind of a part of this society, but, like, there are secrets to their society, which I hope gets uncovered in the next couple books. But, yeah, when Sigale stared at Violet, I was thinking, like, what is about to, like, effing happen? And so the whole time, that kind of set the stage. I was just dying to get to the dragons. I was like, can we just get to the dragons? Because I need to know what this is about. Of course, at that point, I didn't really know about the mating bond between Taryn and Sigale, but you know, I love it. It makes me so happy.
Yes, so Peyton and I's theory is that when Sigale was looking at Violet right on the very first fucking day, that's when like Sigale saw something in Violet. And like that's kind of like why Xaden was never really a threat to Violet, because he says like, oh, like you're my moral compass, but like also that's kind of bullshit. And I think it was just a bullshit lie that he was saying to Violet at the time, because one, he kills other people. Two, like I don't think that like if he really ever fully hated Violet that he would have had those hesitations. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was just, like, he felt something, and, like, Sigale saw something in Violet.
Yeah. And as we learn later in the book, which is one of my favorite tropes, is they can speak in their minds. And
Yes.
obviously, I feel like Segale was like, Xaden! Like, her and Gale. And
Do you
it's funny
see
because
this?
in the whole book, Segale only talks to Violet sometimes. They don't really
Yeah.
have a relationship. And because I think Violet respects her so much, whereas we see with, like, Tarn is kind of like, they like bicker back and forth, like it's kind of cute.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, Tarn is
whereas
like
like
the grumpy old man. I love Tarn.
I know, and so yeah, so it's kind of interesting, and I really think that was a moment, and I hopefully we get some like Xaden POV kind of like
Yeah.
telling Violet all of this, where it's like, yeah, Sigale knew from like the moment she saw you that like that was who her mated dragon was going to have as its rider. So yes, I just like that is one of my favorite scenes of the whole book, and I just needed to like fangirl about it. I do want to do some thoughts on this war college. I definitely wrote down here it's a violent Hogwarts, which is funny because Xaden's nickname for Violet is violence, and it's so funny because her whole life is just all about violence.
Yeah.
So I just imagine like these grand halls and like where they're like sparring. I
Yeah.
imagine like vaulted ceilings, like stone, like weird lights. So yeah, I'm definitely feeling like Hogwarts vibes in like badassness.
Yeah. The vibes are awesome. It kind of reminds me, I love the TV show, not the books. The books kind of suck. Which is rare for a book lover to say. But the TV show is better. The Magicians, it I describe all the time as an adult Harry Potter because they're going to a magic school, but it's grad school, and so it's all like sexy and darker and more fun. And yeah, I would agree. Like this feels like, well, like it's like Divergent. It's also got those like Hogwarts because it's like this like school of like fighting and magic, but it's like for adults, which is
right.
amazing. Thank you.
I'm not necessarily getting like the science fiction dystopian vibes where like it's weirdly
this is
like advanced.
fantasy.
This is like deep like fantasy with of course they have like I imagine like real like mats and like they're not like wrestling in the dirt. You know, like it's like the perfect blend, which I think is like Hogwarts. So I love that they have like regular classes where they talk about war strategy. They have sparring, and I think we should quickly talk about the gauntlet, which is obviously a huge thing for Violet. Is making it up this gauntlet, and I love it because it's like she uses her like intuition and like they say she cheated, but she really didn't. And Xaden totally backs her in this moment.
Yeah,
I think this is a huge moment for their relationship. What were your feelings when you were reading the gauntlet?
Okay. So obviously, like you know that she's not gonna die because like that's just like this is the first book in a series. I'm not worried about her dying. However, I love when they show like she's weak. She's got like there's just stuff she can't do as well because she is significantly smaller. And there's things about this world and this college that are not built for her. But the way that she found her own accommodations, like I love this idea of like a scribe turned writer. And they say it sometimes, they're like, oh, Violet, you think like a scribe. And she's like, I take that as a compliment. Because like she's training and learning how to be beefy, but like her intuition and her heart is to be smart first, like work smarter, not harder. And so the fact that like she comes up with this way to do it, and then she's like quoting the codex to them, and she's like, this is how I found my loophole. Like I love it. That's honestly probably more of a badass moment for me than even her using her lightning powers in the final battle, because this is her showing her mind. This is showing who Violet is.
Yeah, I think, and then what I love about her is she'll just start quoting like history facts in her head, and there's that one moment at some point Xaden's like reading your mind. Like, start,
Yeah.
like, clear your mind. Start doing
Yeah.
that history fact stuff you do.
Yeah. They're doing that weird thing.
And she's like, how do you know I do this? He goes, I can read your, like, we're connected.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I
we're connected.
hear it all the time. So he's like, dude, like, clear your mind. She's like, I don't know how to do that. He's like, recite the history stuff you do. And she's like, okay. And blah, 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 blah.
Okay,
I just
got
love
this.
that. Yeah. So with the gauntlet, obviously she survives. Amber or whatever her name is like, that's not part of the codex. And then she's like, actually, blah, 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 blah. So people die off the gauntlet, and just to show you how badass and crazy this war college is, every morning they read dead people's names, and a couple times Violet's like, oh, that one hurt, like I knew that person. And what it's showing is any day it could be you.
Well, and
so
especially,
it does remind me, it reminds me of in Divergent, they had that cliff in Dauntless that people would jump off of, or people would randomly die. So that kind of reminded me of, like, every morning we stand in formation and they read off the dead people's names.
Yeah, and I loved the scene later in the book where she's like, this isn't the beginning of the month anymore. She's like, all of these names mean something to me. And sometimes she's just like, oh, that guy sat in front of me in class. Or other times it's like, oh, it's so hard not to cry right now hearing this name. But this is like, and she's like, I'm trying to pay attention to these names because this is the last moment. This is the last thing of that person.
Yeah.
Which is like, shows how rough this world is.
Yes. It is very, very, I should just say this, it's very Dauntless. Love it. All right, so what I have next here for us to talk about is the love triangles, but I have a different way I'd like to go about this, because I would like to go into our dragons, since we've already kind of talked about that. I want to talk about more.
Second.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll start this. Oh my god, my nose. Okay. So, as we know, and we already talked about, Violet gets not one, but 2 dragons. One is the largest and, quote, one of the most powerful dragons ever.
Yeah.
The second is Indarna, who is just this cute feather tail, which we learn is basically like a toddler. She's young.
She's a baby dragon.
She's a baby dragon. So this scene of all of this is just one of my favorites, and of course, because Xaden was kind of like lurking, that also is like one of my favorite scenes because he saw it happen.
Yeah.
And now this is when we learn that, you know, riders and their dragons communicate. Therefore, because Taryn and Sagail are mated, they are all, like, it's like a whole family now.
It's connected, yeah. That's so fun. And I love when, as soon as they come back, and, like, Taryn has to be, like, has to use his magical powers. He's like, we gotta put on a show. Stop embarrassing me. Like, come on, let's go. Like, right off the bat, Taryn is, like, not here for shit, you know? He's so fun. But they land, and he's like, go stand by Xaden. Like, things are about to go get intense. Go to Xaden. And Violet doesn't listen. She goes to Dane. And things are bad. But, like, she will learn that she has to stick with Xaden because Tarn has bonded to dragons too many times. So if, like, Violet dies, Tarn dies. And if Tarn dies, then Sagail dies. And then if Sagail dies, then Xaden dies. And it's, like, dominoes.
Yeah, so it sets up this whole thing. So Xaden wants us to feel like, hey, if you die, I die. Therefore, I can't kill you. We knew this whole time he was never going to kill her, but now it's, like, even more serious.
And so he has an excuse to protect her.
Yeah, an excuse to be close to Violet all the time. So, you know, Violet sucks at riding dragons, and usually, if you fall off your dragon, you die. Your dragon, like, sees you as unworthy, and that's that. But Tarn feels differently. And he rescues her ass so many times. It
Oh
is
my god.
so cute. She's like, well, at least I only fell off 10 times that time. And he's like,
Yeah.
like
And
12.
Jade's like, 10? And she's like, well, I used to fall off 30 times.
Yeah, it's like so cute. And then the one scene where we have our little dragon too, flashing forward here a little bit, is when Xaden makes her a saddle to put on him.
Oh, and he
And
shows
then
up. He's like, I heard it's the new style.
Yeah, and it's like so cute. And then Adarna comes out and she has her little harness on and it clips.
There's fan art of her clipped into him, and it's the cutest thing ever. And like, and Violet's like, go roll around some mud so you're less shiny. Like, every time Adarna's there, it's just like, oh, it's a baby.
Protect her at all costs.
Yes.
So,
I got so worried in the final battle that she was gonna get hurt. I was like, no, because Peyton told me something bad was gonna happen. And honestly, when Liam died, I was almost relieved. I was like, oh, it's not Adarna.
Yeah, it's not Adarna. No. So, yes, we love her. And then, so, as we learn, once you're bonded with, or you have your dragon,
yeah,
you will start to begin to have powers, and it's up to you to learn how to properly use those powers. Xaden can manipulate shadows, and that is so badass. Love that. It's one of my other favorite little tropey things. Well, we first learned that Violet, through Adarna, can do like the slow motion freeze time thing. But we also learned that because she's so young, it's very risky for her to do it, because Violet can literally suck the power out of her that she won't have any anymore. And as we learn at the end, it is very possible that Violet did do that, and we do not know what that is going to look like in the next book. With Tarn, through him, she has the ability to wield lightning, which we talked about, and that is how freaking Jack died, which was fantastic. And so she's learning how to, directly use that power. Which, as we get into what we think are war games, which we find out actually aren't, and now we're on this whole different path, her lightning comes in handy. Yeah. Because she learns that she is fighting with what she thought was the enemy, but now there's a different enemy, and I was confused for a second, but oh my gosh, the ending of this book is crazy.
Yes. Okay, so take it part by part. First part is when she finds out, also, for one, so before the war games start, is when Xaden and Violet, like, they gotten together once before, but, like, truly get to, like, on the 5th round, get together, and Violet's like, I love you, and I'm like, girly, you are I'm like, aren't you a little embarrassed that, like, he's not saying it back? But she doesn't care, and, like, that's part of her character, is she's so upfront with it. She's like, I'm in love with you. Like,
I love it. And they destroy her room. They destroy it.
And the first time? Yeah. Crazy. Okay, but so you're obsessed. These characters are finally together. They're, like, getting it on as, like, the sneaking away for the war games. You think it's no big deal. And then there's the reveal that Xaden is actually still a traitor, that he is working with the Flyers, the enemies. How's your heart at that moment?
This scene to me is crazy because they're, like, kind of fully together. Violet professes her love, which I think is so freaking cool, because usually in these books, it's the guy that's like, I love you. She's like, I don't know how to feel. But in this one, I think he does love her. He just doesn't want to hurt her because they're kissing in that cave, and then all of a sudden he's like, stay quiet, and he hides her with his shadows, which I'm like, okay, this is so romantic. She's just kind of like, I'm in the shadows, like, oh, he's protecting me. And here we find out that the Griffin flyers are like, what are you hiding there, like, Xaden? And we
Yeah.
find out Violet's like, oh my god, like, the Griffins, like, oh my god. And then freaking Terrence just, like, chilling there next to the Griffins. And she's like, what Griffins kill dragons? Like, what is going on? And this is where we find out that Xaden is still a traitor. And at this moment, Violet's like, I hate you. I'll never forgive you. I don't love you. Like, this is what someone I love would do to me. I trusted you.
Yeah.
Like, she's mad. But she still goes along with him. Because she has
no other choice. Also, I hate the fucking trope. I was waiting for when the guy reveals that he's bad. And, like, at that moment, I'm like, ugh. And even though it very quick, what I appreciate is that it very quickly resolves. Like, obviously she's gonna freak out like that, and you very quickly realize that, like, the rebellion side is the correct side. But in those moments, you're like, what is going on? Like, not again. Like, I have felt this. I've been betrayed too many times. Like, this is why they got together. But move past quickly, because when they arrive at the war game location, they realize it was all a fake setup to test Xaden and the other rebellion children's loyalty, and they're supposed to let this town, like, basically die and just go off, and they choose not to. They all choose to fight because they're fighting against what Violet thought was mythical creatures, the Venom and the Wyverns.
Yeah. And basically, Xaden's like, I don't care what you guys do, but I need to go help. And the Griffin flyers, and this is also why I was like, oh, y'all are cool. It's because they're like, we're all gonna die. Yeah. I'm okay with that. Because those are my people, and this is what we're supposed to do. We don't need you guys, but, like, that's up to you. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, you guys are cool. And then they decide anyways, of course, to go and help them. And this is interesting because Xaden gave her that dagger that would kill them. But Violet goes, that's interesting. That dagger was on my mom's desk when they went and did their little sneaky stuff. And so now Violet is betrayed twice. We could look at this either way. That she knew the whole time and the government's keeping secrets, which is very possible. Or two, her mother is working alongside Griffin Riders and she's awesome. I'm thinking it's this one. But
at least to begin, the government definitely knows that these mythical creatures don't exist, and there's this, like, really important lesson of, like, it only takes a few generations, like, one generation to stop teaching it, one generation to learn the false truth, and then one generation to never have known the other thing. Like, it happens so quickly that the government has erased this idea. And she's like, my mom, like, top government knows. This is horrible.
Yes. And, it goes back to when her and Liam found out those different war plans, and then they were in class, and like, why aren't we talking about this?
Yeah.
So, corrupt government, we love that. This battle, a couple things, crazy things happen.
Yes.
One, Liam dies, which it's rare for me to, cry during a book. I definitely had one tear. I did not like
so sad. Peyton had read that, and I hadn't gotten into it yet, and I told Peyton, I got into the betrayal bit, and I was like, oh, I bet next book that Violet's gonna get with Liam. I was like, that's my guess. I was like, there's been, like, this, like, flirty fun thing. I was like, I think her and Liam are gonna get together. 10 pages later, and you're like, no. Oh, what is it? A dragon without its rider is tragic. A rider without their dragon is
dead. So when Aubrey told me her theory, I was like, oh, like, yeah, that's good. That's a Good theory. I'm like dying inside. So when his dragon is dying, there is nothing sweeter than them just trying to get Liam to his dragon.
Yeah.
And to me, dragons are like it for me. I love dragons at this point. This is like my own dog, okay?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the fact that Liam is okay, but now he is actively dying because we know, you know, a rider without his dragon is dead. That scene is just so beautiful, and Liam and is kind of like the foster brother of Xaden, and Liam protected Violet this whole time. So, what a crazy moment. We are quickly jolted out of that moment because
Yeah.
we find out that there's nothing that is like killing these freaking enemies, and we find out that the only way to win this is if Violet uses her lightning.
Yes. Her lightning can literally take a whole wyvern down. And like a wyvern is like a dragon. Like it's just another type of dragon. It's like the evil dragon in this world. And it's a little bit smaller, but like damn. Like a wyvern took Liam's dragon down, and Violet can one-shot them. And then she also has to like they have to stab these, what are they? Is it venom or
Yeah, the venom. Yeah, they're like the riders.
yeah.
Almost. Yeah. They're like creepy looking. They have like the red eyes or whatever. But yeah, we find out that if you take out the like dragon, basically it kills the rider, too similar how if you would kill a dragon, a rider would die. So it kind of works the same way. So once they discover that, they're like, Violet, it's time for you to try your best because we're gonna die if you don't succeed. And she does.
She does.
But it sends her into a stasis of some kind where, of course, she is knocked out. And we hear Xaden go, like, we have to take her to this. It's the closest option. And they go, are you sure?
Yeah. Aren't you risking something? That's a hot moment. That's a hot moment. Because he's like, I would do anything to save her right now.
So basically, they take her to his child home, like, castle?
Yeah. Like his dad was like, I guess the Duke or something in like other terms. And so he has a whole stone castle still around. But it's like the rebellion hideout.
Yeah. And so Xaden's all stinky and stuff. And Violet slowly wakes up in his childhood bedroom.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, you kind of stink. And he's like, oh my god, you're awake. And she's kind of like cool with him, which is interesting. We thought she'd be more spiteful, but she's not really. She's just kind of confused, but she loses her memory for a little bit, but then she kind of gains everything back.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, it was kind of weird, whatever, because the biggest point here is that her freaking brother walks into the room. And that's all the book ends.
Yeah.
That's all we know.
It's the last sentence, and you're just like left like, wait, what? Like the brother's back, the rebellion is different, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm so excited for the next book. Everything has changed.
Yes. And then this is the best part. You know, she gets the poison in her from fighting. She was poisoned, and the biggest thing is they're like, well, like, what did you do to like reverse this poison? And he goes, I told you I knew better potion masters. You weren't healed, you were mended. And who is the only person who can mend? Okay, ready? Brennan. She stares at her brother in open mouth shock. Brennan just grins and opens his arms. Welcome to the revolution, Violet. Because Brennan is the only person that can.
Yeah, he's like one of the only other menders. There's Nolan, but that's like part of the government. So,
So she would have died if it wasn't for her own brother, because
Yeah.
her brother saved her life. And
Actually alive.
Xaden knew that. And Xaden knew that her brother wasn't dead this whole time. And it then
Another
sends you
secret.
catapulting back into memories where she's like, I'm sorry about your dad, like that day where they like are rejoicing.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, your brother died too. And like,
But he's
I'm
like, I can't comfort you about that.
yeah, and then I'm like, you're full of shit. You knew the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm really, and I think that's why everyone is freaking out about this book, because
Yeah.
what is going to happen next?
Iron Flame comes out in November, which, as someone who consumed this book, feels so far away. But honestly, in the publishing industry, the fact that this comes out in November is like a blessing, a godsend. Like, we don't have to wait 2 years. It is out in November. You will catch us consuming it as soon as it comes out. I will stand in a line to get the book.
We are very lucky and blessed that, and it's kind of like, you know, she kind of, Rebecca knew, like, all right, like I better start working on this. And I even saw her post the other day, like, I think it was yesterday, she posted a picture and she's like, it was this beautiful sky, and she's like, best place to edit Iron Flame, and we're like we can't wait, edit faster, like release the book sooner. Oh yes. So, you know, we kind of went over our predictions, but really, honestly, this is going to turn into, kind of like Divergent did, a political war where now this group of people are against all of this. And I think we are going to be introduced to a whole new set of characters that I think we are going to fall in love with. Oh my gosh, we are so excited. So excited. All right, that is all we have time for today. Thank you for joining us for this little bit of a lengthier episode. We just have so much to say about this amazing book.
Too excited.
What did you think about Fourth Wing? Seriously, what did you think about it? Did you love it as much as we did? What predictions do you have for Iron Flame? And of course, let us know what you want us to review next.
Thank you all so much for joining us, and happy reading.